Hi, welcome to another episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV. I'm your host Marek Mularczyk and welcome to episode 1,700,000. Welcome. I'm glad to see you here again. Another week, another exciting episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV. A show about anything Photoshop, Lightroom and Adobe Bridge as well, related. Okay, now I've got loads of exciting tutorials for you and just now let's start with the news. Photoshop has turned 21. Yeah, it's been a few days now since Photoshop turned 21. I can't believe it, it's already been 21 years since Photoshop was created back in 1990. Okay. Now you can find lots of information on my blog, PhotoshopLightroomTV.co.uk, and on my blog you find a post about Photoshop turning 21, and there's a link where you can find out how you can win a copy of Photoshop CS5. Yes, Adobe are giving away a copy of Photoshop CS5 for free. Okay, so go check it out. Go to PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk and find out how you can win. It's really easy. All the details on the page. Okay, good. Now let's start with the first tutorial. Now this week we're only going to have 2 tutorials instead of 3. And the first tutorial is in, let's see, with Photoshop. Yeah, about Photoshop. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can use Photoshop to create images with rounded corners, a so popular effect on the web. This is just one of the techniques. You know, there's loads of ways of doing it. So let's see how you can create images with rounded corners in Adobe Photoshop. So here we are in Photoshop and we're going to create rounded corners. Okay, hi, let me show you how you can create images with rounded corners using Adobe Photoshop and with quick and easy way. I've got this image open here. First I'm going to resize it because it's really big. If you go to image size, you notice that it's 1000 pixels by 667 pixels, so this is definitely too big. Okay, so I'm going to resize it. I'm going to cancel first and I'm going to crop it to, let's say, 400 pixels by 300 pixels. Okay. And with crop tool, I'll just click and drag across the image. I know it's going to crop some areas, but that's fine. Let's bring a bit more of this fence here and I'll accept the transformation. I'll zoom into 100% view. So I'll just zoom in. This is 100% view, that's the image. Now let's go into cleaning around the corners. This is just one of the techniques I use. One of the things I love about Photoshop is there's always lots of techniques of achieving different tasks. So that's what I do. I'll select the shape tool, rounded rectangle tool, okay, in the options bar. I'm going to set the radius. I'll set it to, let's say, 30 pixels as an example. I'm going to, it's a trial and error, so I'm going to see if it's okay or if it's too big or too small value. I'm not going to worry about the color because I'm going to change the style to this one here, which shows the stroke and no fill. So I'm going to double click on it. And now on the page, I'll click and drag to create a rectangle with rounded corners. Okay, looks good. I think that 30 pixels looks good. What this does, it creates a new layer inside of Photoshop, and this layer has a layer mask next to it. This is a vector layer mask, by the way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load this vector mask as selection. So I'll hold the control key and I'll click on this layer mask here. This loads this as a selection. Now I'm going to copy that. So edit, copy merged, because the image is on the background layer that's below. So I'm going to do copy merged, and then I'll do file new to create a new document. Photoshop notices that I've got something in my clipboard, so try to create a document that's the same size. I'm just going to change the height to 300. 70 dpi is fine, and background contents, I'll make it transparent. And I'll press OK. Now I'm going to paste it. Edit, paste. Convert, no, I want to keep it as sRGB. And this is the image with rounded corners and with transparency behind it. Now to keep the transparency and the rounded corners, of course, I'll need to export it as a PNG file. So I'll go to File and Save for Web and Devices. When Save for Web and Devices opens, in the top right corner, first I'm going to do 2 up, so I can see the original and the output file. I'm going to change it to PNG8. PNG8 should be fine if you don't have any layer effects to it, special effects. Okay. Well, actually, I can show you how to add an effect to it as well. I'm going to do it really quickly, so I'm going to click cancel. And in here, I'll jump to FX and do drop shadow. I'm going to give it a drop shadow here. Angle is fine, about 220 to 30. Okay. I'm going to increase the distance a bit. And then with the size, let's see. Oh no, I'm going to lower the distance because I don't have so much space in the document here, and I'll lower the size as well. Just a bit of a shadow. Now press OK. You can see the shadow here. And then I'll go File, Save for Web and Devices. And in Save for Web and Devices, I'm going to export it this time as a PNG 24, because if you look on GIF or PNG 8, the shadow doesn't look good. I'm going to do a PNG 24, which gives me a nice, beautiful shadow here. Make sure the transparency is checked, and I'm going to save it. Okay. And I'm going to call that image, just as an example. Save it on my desktop. Format images only, default settings, and click Save, and then you're done. This is how you create images with rounded corners inside Adobe Photoshop. Thank you for watching. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Adobe Photoshop. Now I've got one more for you. This tutorial, just a moment. Now let me point you to another interesting article and resource. If you navigate to my blog, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk, there's a post about using Unsharp Mask in Photoshop, about sharpening the images. Now Unsharp Mask is one of the most common, or one of the most often used sharpening filters in Adobe Photoshop. Okay. Now why? Well, go and find out. You find an interesting post about Unsharp Mask, also about the options that appear within Unsharp Mask. We've got a couple of sliders in here. Do you know what I mean? Well, if you don't, or if you're not sure, go and check it out. PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk. You find all the information about Unsharp Mask and also some screenshots. So an easy read. Okay. And by the way, just to remind you, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk is my blog, and on this blog you find all the information related to Photoshop, Lightroom and Bridge. I'm putting resources, links to other people pages like Terry White from Adobe, or Jean McCullough, or anyone really who creates really interesting content about Photoshop, Lightroom or Bridge. I hope you enjoyed it. Go and check it out, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk. If you're interested in Adobe Certified training, go to my website, scitraining.co.uk, for Adobe Certified training in Photoshop, Lightroom, Bridge, Dream Event Flash as well. Okay, now this second tutorial will be in Adobe Bridge. This time I'm going to show you the new feature in Bridge CS5, the new watermarks feature in Bridge CS5, what it does, how it works, and what new features it brings into Adobe Bridge. So let's jump into Adobe Bridge now. It's time for Adobe Bridge. Here I am inside Adobe Bridge CS5, and I'm going to take one of the images, let's say this one here, as an example, and I'll show you the new watermark feature inside Bridge CS5. Okay. So I've got this image selected. I'll jump into the output workspace, because that's where we add watermark to the images. So I'll click on the output. The output panel will open in just a moment. Okay, and there's two sections here, Web PDF and Web Gallery. I'm going to use the PDF section. Okay. Now, or I can use just a couple of images. So let me select a few more images here. Just using Control key or Command key to select multiple images. Okay, so I've got 6 images selected. In the PDF section, I'm going to create 4x5 contact sheet, and then I'll customize it, because I don't have so many images. I've only got 6 images, so there will be loads of space, and the image thumbnails will be quite big. And just for, let's say I'm going to print it, so I'm going to use the high resolution 300 dpi. So that's the page. I'll use the International Paper A4 size as a preset. Okay, 300 ppi, portrait, that's great. Quality is fine. What I'm going to change is the number of columns and number of rows. I'll do 2 columns and 3 rows. Okay, and I'll refresh preview. This will make the images bigger, because there are only 6 images. Looks good. I'm going to increase some margins on the sides. I'll do here 2 centimeters and 2 centimeters, just to add more space and make the images smaller as well. Looks good. Okay, and I'll scroll down to the watermarking section. So I'll scroll down, and this watermark section here, this one is new in CS5. Now there's two kinds of watermarks we can add here. I'll click Add Watermark, an image or a text. Okay, I'm just going to add some text as an example. So I'll do Insert Text, and I'll add some corporate information here. I'll start with the corporate symbol. Then the date, 2011. Let's say Marek Mularczyk photography. Good. I'll click on Refresh Preview to see what it looks like. And now in Bridge CS5, watermark appears on each single image. In CS4, it used to appear on one center here. I'm going to make the size is okay. I'll make that white. So I'll change the color to white. Okay, it looks good. And I'll refresh preview once again. Just see it bigger. I'm going to minimize that just for a moment. Looks good. Now, I think the size is okay, but I'm going to drag the opacity down to make it semi-transparent. Let's say about 30%. I'll click refresh preview once again to see what it looks like now. Looks good. Looks good. Now you can move it as well. There's a horizontal offset and vertical offset. For example, if I take vertical offset, I can move that to positive values in here. So for example, 57% to move it upwards. Okay. Now because I have loads of sky here on the top, I'm going to move it actually downwards. Not too much. Let's say about 20%. I'll click refresh preview. And looks good. Okay. You can change the size, you can also change the font. Now with Bridge CS5, you can use any font from your computer, from your system, as a watermark symbol. The other kind of watermark here is the image. So I'm going to click on Insert Image now, instead of it, and I'll select an image. I'm going to use maybe my logo. So go to my documents, let me find it. Graphic design, site training should be somewhere here. I just need to find the PNG file. Okay, so that's a PNG file with some transparency. I'll click refresh preview to see what it looks like. Now this is huge, so I'm going to scale it down, make it smaller, okay, because the logo is big. It's still too big. I'll make it about 10-15% of the original. Okay, there's the logo. Looks good. It replaces the text. Any image could be a logo. And again, you can make it semi-transparent. You can also move it anywhere you want. You can even rotate it. Okay, so I could rotate this as an example. And now the logo is rotated on the page. A really cool, nice feature in Adobe Bridge CS5, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, one of the UK's leading specialists in Adobe Certified training. Thank you for watching. Hey, welcome back. I hope you didn't fall asleep. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Now we're almost done. There's just one more thing. As usual, a tip of the week. Okay. Now this tip of the week, this time, will be in Adobe Photoshop. Okay. A few keyboard shortcuts for you. Well, when you work on a document in Photoshop, there's a few keyboard shortcuts that you should know. For example, if you want to zoom in your image so it fills the whole window within Photoshop and removes the scroll bars on the sides, you just use Ctrl-0 on a PC or Command-0 on a Mac. Okay? If you want to zoom in your image to the actual view, the actual size, when you print it, for example, Ctrl-1 on a PC or Command-1 on a Mac. Okay, quick and easy. And of course, as usual, if you want to zoom in or zoom out on the images, Ctrl+, Ctrl-, Command+, Command-, really quick and easy. Or you could also use the zoom tool instead. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Once again, I'm Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, one of the UK's leading specialists in Adobe Certified training. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next week on Photoshop Lightroom TV. See you. Bye bye.